So we're joined by Ben around the world, as we're going to call you. You're cycling around the world. You started how long ago?
Just over 3 weeks ago, on the 20th of May.
So you
Yeah,
cycled for say 20 days, and you left London,
yeah,
and you've reached Bulgaria.
yeah. I'm in Sofia, Bulgaria now, in my friend's flat, which is right under the flight path to the airport. So you might get the occasional landing Ryanair flight in the middle. But yeah, it's good place to be.
And obviously, this is the first time I've done any live streams or recordings for Hoxton FM from the Formless studios, we'll say. And
Yeah,
it was an effortless, easy setup, and it didn't take any time at all to do. We haven't just been back and forth for the last hour and
yeah,
a bit. It was all effortless and seamless and perfect.
yeah. Under the covers, there's nothing going on there. It's just all smooth.
And you were laughing at me adjusting the camera constantly, and it's the
Yeah, yeah. Very much.
all the newsreader jokes and everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just waiting for your kids to come in, and you have to try and shimmy them out without showing that you're not wearing suit trousers below the below the camera shot.
Yeah, I am wearing shorts. I'm inspired by your quest to cycle around the world. I've started running.
Ah,
Um,
yes, yeah,
I obviously, whenever I upload anything on the Strava app, I then see what you've uploaded.
oh
It's kind of a bit different, but
no. Yeah. That's what that app's mainly for. It's just about really just feeling really demoralized about someone else who's doing something even better than you. The guy who designed the Ben Around the World logo, George, he's awesome. But it's really annoying because every time I go on Strava, he's just run like a 3 minute 59 per kilometer, like 10K down in Newcastle. And just don't even understand how can actually do that. That's what Strava's made for.
what a bastard! Yeah, that's there's always someone better, isn't there, or doing something differently. And
Yeah,
I
that's a good
just
life lesson.
have you seen this guy, David Goggins,
No?
the ultra marathon runner guy? My
Oh,
God, guy like the first guy to be a Navy SEAL and
nice.
a ranger and something else. It did like 20 years, and then got to his like 40s and says, "I'll just do ultra marathon running," and he did all the Death Valley run and all these sorts of things he's done,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like it's pretty scary. The guy just does stuff to make himself uncomfortable.
I don't understand why the ultra running has become popular now. It's an interesting little trend. I think it might be off the back of the sort of tough mudder thing and the fact that everyone just wants to sort of outdo each other for probably for Strava, to be honest. But yeah, a mate of mine just posted that he's going to do his first 50K last weekend, I think, and yeah, I mean, I thought marathon was pretty tough. Like this trip is long distance, but it's not fast. It's really, it's like 120 kilometers a day, but that's in 12 hours. So it's not anything like an actual race. It's pretty leisurely paced, to be honest. So I'm interested that people are trying to do that themselves, really.
But it's all posturing, isn't it? As you say, Strava's the posturing. You've got doing it for charity.
Oh
Uh,
yes, yeah,
you've got. I think the other thing is when you look at people like Eddie Izzard running all those marathons every day, these people
yeah,
running a marathon every day, and you're kind of
yeah.
like, oh wow, that's amazing, and then you're like, oh, they walked most of it.
Oh yeah,
They're
yeah,
not, they're not going to be able to run it in.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
Anyway,
is the truth, actually. Yeah, a lot of ultramarathons are walked for a lot of it, especially if you've got like a couple of days or something to get in. But I suppose if you keep, it's just the fact that you keep going and keep don't sleep, and I don't know. I quite like the sort of concept of just leaving with having to have a head torch on because you're going to be out there for so long. But yeah, it's pretty nuts.
so
Pretty nuts.
you're cycling with panniers and like quite a lot of stuff. That's the other thing. It's like
Yeah,
my assumption initially was like, oh, it's just riding a bike, and but you've got a lot of kit with you as well.
yeah. Well, it's become a bit ridiculous, really. With the bikes just sitting here, and it's a bike that I've had for a long time. I think if the reasons why I'm doing it, kind of, the only reason main reason I'm doing this is because I've got a bike named the World Tour, and I sort of had to live up to the name of the bike by actually doing it someday. That's where the dream came from. But it's very well loaded up. it got a bit ridiculous because I was building it so late last minute. I just kept ordering all the parts I needed, all of the kit I needed, and just kept piling up and up and up. And it was about 3 days before I left, before I actually tried to put everything together. And there was literally just stuff hanging off the back of the bags. There was no room for certain things. I just had to like tie stuff up with bungees and cables ties, and it was a bit ridiculous. All in all, it's about 50 kilograms, the entire bike, which I definitely feel going up hills, I have to say. I've ridden it before with lots of trips. I went across Spain last summer following the route of a Laurie Lee book, but I had it super light there. And in Spain, you can basically, on a Boris bike, stop every many kilometers and there's a hotel, a petrol station, a supermarket all there for you. But in the places I'm going, I hopefully will need some of this kit.
So can you just summarize the blog post? I thought it was a really, really inspiring post. I feel like so much now. I can hear a plane coming.
Yeah, that's it.
You've kind of, everything feels like a cliche. Everything feels quite convoluted and everything. But yours came across really, really genuine. And I know a lot of people like Normski were really, really taken aback by it. Can you summarize it in a few words?
In a few words. Yeah, I think the core of it is that it's a dream that I've had since I was a kid, and things have conspired in my life to get me to the point where it's actually potentially possible now to do it. So I've sort of jumped at it, and I've always found it sort of strange to do things for a set reason. And obviously I think there are charities that do great work, and but I think there are a lot of people that do things for a charity as an excuse, or that's probably a good reason, but in a worst case, things like doing it for Instagram. I was really obsessed last year with buying a van and living in a van for a while. But as soon as I saw the Vice documentary about the fact that people are living in vans so that they can get sponsored $2,000 to wear a watch on Instagram, I was a bit put off that fact. So for me, I think the core is doing the dream first and then applying things to that make sense. So when I published that post, and obviously people didn't quite read it, so I put it out there, I got a couple of people asking me, "Oh, I work for so-and-so brand," or "Would you take a sponsorship from so-and-so?" And I think like my easy answer at the beginning is no. I think if things work out later on to help me achieve that dream, then that would make sense. But I think really what it's all about is following that dream of going around the world on my little green world tour bike.
I've recently kind of been thinking about this, and I wanted to talk to you about it. I might as well say it to you now. I really like the idea of if you're using products or services, just really like shouting them out, but in a pure way of like, I like this product, I like this service.
Yeah.
And then if they, you should definitely dangle that under their nose. Then if they respond in any way, then that's great. But you're doing it kind of, you're not sticking your neck out, but you're endorsing something that you've bought or you believe in.
Oh yeah.
And then if there are kickbacks afterwards, they're almost kind of warranted. But it keeps everything genuine.
That's a good way to think about it. I think the thing with me is that when I looked at it, I was lucky enough to speak to a friend of mine who met paragliding, who did the Mongol Rally. I think I might have told you this a few years back, and he was sponsored for that. I think there's a lot more money to have a Land Rover and all the equipment you need to drive to Mongolia from wherever that race starts. But he said that basically the trade-off for a free Land Rover was that he worked for that distributor every day for the entire trip. Every day he had to do X number of posts, make sure he wrote the right amount, make sure he filmed video of everything, getting the right shots of the logos and all this kind of stuff.
It's bullshit. Yeah. It's bullshit. It's just like, this is exactly like my former life accessing subsidies for businesses. You end up jumping through so many hoops, filling in so much paperwork, and then you might get some matched funding. But essentially, you have to do, like, you might as well do it yourself. And I think the nice thing about the way you're doing it is you're independent completely. You're doing it on your terms. You're doing it your way. You're not just cycling around the world. You're continuing to work on a few different projects, including our projects with video and live streaming, which is great. But you're studying as well?
Yeah, I'm studying a degree in economics with development at the LSE through this amazing international program, which is designed for international students who want to get an LSE stamped degree, just without having to go to London. So I can take the exams from 77 universities around the world. I just have to know a good few and take the exams there, which is awesome. And that links a bit back to the sort of branding thing as well, because I'm more interested in sort of supporting and working, coming out of the startup world and the music industry world. I'm keen to take those skills and expand them into projects that are really life-changing for people. I think a lot of startup culture is about changing the world, but people forget to add whether it's changing the world for the better, or I suppose people don't care. They just care that it's changing the world and making a stink and disrupting, and that kind of thing. So for me, I think I want to be taking my next project once I come back from this trip, or wherever this trip morphs into that kind of area of, I'm not sure what it'll necessarily be. I mean, the degree is very tailored to getting a job at the UN, which is not very startup at all. But I think there's a middle ground there of taking those the morals and the ideals of those big NGOs and applying them to new and interesting businesses in a way. So those are the companies I'd want to get sponsorship for. Like, if I look at my bike, the most expensive thing I have, probably like the gears on the bike or something. It's a few £100. If someone was to sponsor me, give me some free gears, I mean, there's not really a lot to me. I'm lucky in that I can afford to pay for everything I need to travel. So really now I'm looking at, can I use this trip to get working placements with the UN as I go around the world, and then apply that to whatever I do next.
That's great, and you can always adjust. You can always do something different. You can change your tack. You can literally choose a different destination or a different area you want to build your skills in. We should really recap on what you've done already, because you don't tend to kind of blow your own trumpet. I met you because Hoxton FM needed a media partner or a platform to put all our live streams through. So we were introduced by Petter Savic, you were all in the same building in co-working spaces, and you started Chew TV, and that like was an amazing platform for us. But what did you do before that?
Before that, going backwards, I suppose I worked at Vice for a year doing sort of ad technology stuff. My background as a professional developer, really. And then before that, I worked for a company called AEI Media, who are well known in the sort of electronic music and the YouTube music MCN space. They've got brands like UKF and Drum and Bass Arena and Subsoul and things like that. So I had a real sort of music industry and media background before then, and I was doing a lot of live streaming and stuff as part of that on top of the work I was doing as a developer. So it all kind of came together into Chew, and I've got a lot of kind of time now. I left Chew a couple of years ago, and or almost 2 years ago now, and I've got a little more perspective on it now, and it's just an amazing thing to have been able to do. I have to say, it's talking about dreams. It's really one of those things where I got a chance to create something that I really wanted to exist in the world, and we really managed to get it to a good point. So by the time I left, we had something like 250,000 DJs from around the world all streaming their shows on there. And when I look back at it, it's incredible, and it's still going. It's still growing, as far as I can tell. It. A lot of people I've spoken to say that they've still had really good numbers recently. So
it's not the same since you left, I'll be honest.
Oh really? Oh, you don't have to say that.
No, it really isn't. It really isn't. But you also did quite a bit of freelance work after you left Chew. Can you name drop a little?
Yeah, well, I did a lot of sort of startup consulting. Went back to doing some development, which is always good fun. and I ended up through a number of connections working at Universal Music for the last 9 months, which was brilliant, really. Came at a really interesting time where just before GDPR, I suppose. So I left just in time to not have to deal with that. but we just worked on some amazing projects. Like it's incredible to come as a sort of techie musician, DJ, music fan, to come from the sort of indie side of the world, creating your own business, working with small independent labels, creating new talent and working with that level artists and creator. And then, but you can't deny that there's some excitement for sticking U2's website up or Rolling Stones or whoever it is, Katy Perry or whatever. There's a certain thing about building websites for the stars there's a certain level of nerdy glamour, I'd say. Good way to describe it.
I just love the fact that you've done stuff from grassroots and you've done stuff at kind of the top level. You've kind of got all this perspective, and now you're like, right, I'm going to cycle around the world and I'm going to study for this degree.
Get a global perspective on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's
totally.
What it's all about. I think it was really interesting doing that switch from independent startup. It's true. We had a lot of conversations with Universal. A lot of I knew a lot of people there before I went to work there for a little bit, but as a small company, you have to be very bullish, and you hear all the people say labels are ruining the industry, all this kind of stuff, and then you go to the other side of the curtain, and you realise that there's a lot of talk on both sides, but I think there's an existence there, and there's a different kind of thing. One of the things that I've made a little video about is a book that I got recommended recently called Uprooted by Jace Clayton, which is super interesting. It's about how he's a DJ himself, and he just explores all the kind of details of music culture. But he talks about how the latest Rihanna record had something like 45 credits in production credits on the actual release, and he sort of said this in a derogatory way about how can you call that a creation or something. But for me, it's not the same thing. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like watching Hollywood blockbuster versus like an indie movie. Like you might get more substance from like a sort of a Norwegian vampire thriller that was filmed on a tiny budget by like 3 people, but there's still value in art and like unbelievable creativity in the sort of collaboration that goes on. This unbelievable collaboration of hundreds, if not thousands, of people to put together something at that level. So that's an interesting perspective that I've gained from the music side of things, and now really I want to try and take that perspective and take it to a global point, really, and look at sort of music and creativity and what we're doing and business and startups, and apply it to the rest of the world, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting you were saying, so we were talking as we were getting this all set up, and you mentioned in this kind of first 3 weeks of cycling, you were pretty much deprived from any internet access.
Yeah.
And then you've arrived at your friend's flat in Bulgaria, in Sofia, and you've kind of ended up like re-immersing yourself in access to the internet, and it's kind of got your brain so it's harder to sleep. You're saying you're kind of just that's really interesting that you've almost cleansed yourself for these 3 weeks, and then
it's really interesting, because it was. But the thing is, like I was telling everyone, from May the 21st, 20th, when I go, or 21st when I go on the ferry, that's it. You're not going to be able to talk to me ever again until I get to Bulgaria. But the reality is, thanks to the EU for however long that lasts, I have unlimited data. All my phone package applies across the entire EU, basically. So I got to, get to Belgium, and I can still stream live Netflix onto my phone if I wanted to. So, but really, one of the things I love about cycling and cycle touring is the sort of this cycle you get into of really just fulfilling basic needs. I'm sure there's a great psychological explanation below it, but it's really just all you do all day is travel, find food, find shelter, speak to people, like see, there's novelty all day, you know, it's like a really nice little world to live in. So realistically, I just didn't really connect at all until online much. I just sort of uploaded my one Instagram photo every day and my Strava, obviously, every day if I could do it.
So you're pushing out at that point. You're not really like you're making your post and then you're getting off and you're carrying on with your cycler gatherer lifestyle.
Cycler gatherer lifestyle, yeah, I like that. Yeah, absolutely. And then I'd use it for, you know, trying to get. I got an amazing host in warm. There's a site called Warm Showers, which is a network for cycle tourists, basically. So if you do a big trip, or well, if you just like cycling, I suppose you can sign up to the site and you can either offer your flat to be hosted. It's kind of like couch surfing, I suppose, but for cyclists, you offer your spare room or whatever to cyclists that are coming through, and in return, you can, when you go on your next cycle trip, you can stay in there. But yeah, so I use the phone to communicate for that. But then by the time I got to Serbia, which is the last country before Bulgaria, for some reason, 3 doesn't have an agreement with them. So I was totally cut off in Serbia.
And how did that feel?
I thought it would be, I had reservations about it, but realistically, it was like life went on. And in fact, it was, yeah, there wasn't really any different, to be honest. I mean, my only sort of technical vice in a way is that I've been listening to podcasts and audiobooks a lot. That's really what sustains me when I'm in like the third hill climb of the day, and I just want to get to the top and camp and whatever, and that's the time when I'll get my audiobook out or start playing drum and bass out of the speaker, you know, from Spotify or whatever.
So you've been doing it with a speaker because you lost the headphone adapter. What happened?
I lost my because I've got the wonderful iPhone 7 or whatever it is. I the only way I can listen to music is through the little magical dongle. Or Bluetooth headphones, obviously, but I had
Apple, send him some AirPods. Send the man some AirPods right now.
No, my ears don't work. My ears aren't compatible, unfortunately, with those kind of headphones. But yeah, I left that. I think I might have just left that in my flat, to be honest. A little black bag with everything audio on it. So I didn't have any audio. But again, I thought that, well, like, quite rightly, like you said, I could have probably stopped and found a little Apple reseller. And I've got these from Sophia, and there's a little iStyle store, which is like a little fake Apple store that has them. But actually, it was kind of part of the thing where I just wanted to see. I thought it's only 3 weeks. I'll just see how it is, and actually, it worked quite well. There was only a couple of times where I was on it, and I just wanted to just. Those are some of the times where you want to just get through it, put an audiobook in, and get through it. Most of the time, I just like have a little bit of music playing if I wanted it from my speaker, and going through. I've got a very random selection of playlists that I downloaded, so going through a sort of North Croatian, like a super poor farming community with reggaeton playing loud out of my phone.
That's kind of cool. That's kind of cooler, isn't it? If you're kind of sharing it. I mean, you know, like, have you kind of, do you stop at the roadside and interact with people like that, or?
Yeah, it depends on from country to country, really. I tend to. Well, yeah, it depends. What's been interesting about Europe is that, you know, a lot of the earlier countries, so Belgium and Germany and Austria, they're quite cycling friendly countries, obviously, and there's a lot of cyclists about, and they'll come up and chat to you. Other than that, I didn't really get a lot of interaction from people kind of in the street. People are sort of in their world with their phones and stuff. Then I went into Slovenia and Croatia. I was in the sort of northern poorest part, really like poor, pretty sort of mosquito infested, quite, you know, pretty dire part of the country, to be honest. All the towns were just single street towns with maximum 20 houses, you know, all just sort of bare brick, and there I just literally just got gawping. People would there'd just be like kids on the side of the street with like, you know, classic bare feet and
playing in the mud,
just staring me down. But then once I got into Serbia, that was the real, and Bulgaria, it was just unbelievable. As soon as I crossed the border, I would because I was a bit used to sort of people beeping me to move slightly, because I ride quite out in the road because all the potholes and everything are in the side. So I'm used to people beeping at me to get out of the way, basically. And sometimes I do it, or sometimes I'm a bit stubborn and stay in the road. And people beeping me, like, oh God, here we go again. So I sort of move over to the side of the road. Someone comes past, they're like shouting, waving, like shouting to me out the window, just unbelievably, like just thrilled to see me doing what I'm doing, really.
So you're not flying a flag off the back of your bike or anything, or they just worked out that you've got a lot of kit on board. You're obviously
Oh, it's pretty obvious. My bike is unbelievably like heavily loaded. You know what I mean? It's pretty heavily loaded. I generally it leads to some confusion, I think, when I stop, especially in these countries, because there's in sort of Eastern Europe where I am now, because it's quite close to Austria and Germany. So, and I'm quite blonde at the moment, so whenever I'd stop, people would start speaking to me in German, which is quite funny. So I had to quickly say that I couldn't speak German. But you get a lot of people
do
chatting
that.
to
You do that English thing where you
in
say
shops and things like that, and in going to supermarkets and stopping at water's quite a big one. You know, I went into asking cafes and restaurants and things for water. I think what I found is, you know, I think a lot of the cliches of this kind of travel are that, you know, everyone is friendly around the world, and there's this image of, we get the media image of everyone is scary and foreign and everything. I think the reality is that people are people everywhere. So there's always going to be the arsehole in whatever town you are. So there's always, there was the kids throwing stones at me in Croatia, or the guy shouting boo out of a van in Serbia, which I think is so childish. I remember like doing that as a kid, like driving around Norwich and someone's like people carrier and shouting out the window to try and scare people. That's such a thing. But then there are equally, you know, like there are in certain parts of the UK, you know, there's like, or everywhere, there are the nice people and the friendly people and people that will come and chat to you, and there's no link between those. Like there's generally people from all ages and demographics and everything that will come and chat to you in the kind of kind category. So it's an interesting balance to find.
I think throwing stones sounds a bit much, but
I
could handle a boo. I think that's fine.
That was an interesting experience. I think it was that you could tell it was a sort of, so this was in Croatia, northern Croatia, and I came around the corner again into one of these really super poor, just like it's a group of farm buildings. There was just a bunch of sort of, it seemed like early teens, basically, sort of teenagers hanging out on a Sunday afternoon, nothing else to do, and there was a sort of like a 13, 14-year-old kid hanging in a tree, and he decided to sort of impress his mates by shouting random stuff at me and throwing a rock at me, which was an interesting one. I was just sort of their entertainment for that afternoon, I feel. But it was interesting afterwards. It didn't really affect my image of the country, I think. Well, actually, maybe because Croatia, the northern part of Croatia was not my favorite, I have to say. But like I say, I think there's a balance between the good people and the bad people wherever you go, really.
I wonder, we should have sent you away with some Hoxton FM stickers, or at least a Hoxton FM flag to fly off the back of your bike.
I've still got the Hoxton FM sticker on the front of my bike.
Perfect.
So you're leading the way.
Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. It's not so good flying a flag. It could get you in trouble. And
oh yeah. Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. I've got my little Union Jack cycling cap that
that's good. Yeah, that's good. You should. And I was thinking we should have asked you to, whenever you meet a nice person, to ask them what music they're listening, what their favourite music is.
Yeah. Well, I've actually tried to make a music link from while I'm here. So when I was in Belgrade, I stopped there for a night to explore the town. Amazing. I was blown away by Belgrade. I stayed in a little hostel, and I just went. I asked the woman that was working there, you know, because there's a certain kind of person that works at a hostel, you know, people that want to meet people and are kind of in with the city. I think generally the people that I found when they're younger and they're volunteers, you know, well, not volunteers, but like staff at a hostel. And she gave me some recommendations of where to go. And so I said I was vegetarian for food, and I was waiting for for a funny look, because I sort of expected, I'd seen so many pigs going past in the trucks, and every time I go into a shop, it was all pork products. But she was like, "Oh, I know this perfect place." And I went down to literally 2 blocks down, and there was this, basically looked like a burnt out house. I went inside, and there was just sort of some wooden beams across some metal sort of trusses, and there was a waitress sitting there, and I was like, "Is this the restaurant?" And she's like, "Yeah. Can I eat some food?" She said, "Yeah, would you like to go into the garden or eat here?" And I was like, "The garden, obviously." So she led me down into the basement, basically out the back, and we're on this slope below the big, famous kind of fortress in Belgrade that overlooks the river, and it's on this really steep slope down to the river, and it's this unbelievable courtyard between 3 or 4 buildings. Got like a modernist bench over here. They've got like John Coltrane playing over like a analog speaker wired in. They've got little family of kittens there playing. And I asked for the menu. She gives me 2 sort of Soviet era books, all in Serbian. And you open it up, and in the middle there's like a hidden menu. And it turns out it's like a vegan Mexican place, which is my favorite kind of food in the world. So I felt like, I could have been anywhere there. I could have been in Paris. I could have been in Shoreditch. I could have been in Brooklyn. It was unbelievable. But in terms of music, I asked the same thing, and I went hunting. I found some just little stalls, basically. I was only there for an evening, so I couldn't get to any shops, but I found this little stall that was selling music, and they had this sort of basically this sort of pop classics in the front, and then in the back you got to the sort of Serbian like folk music and stuff like that, and that's the stuff that I wanted to listen to, but there's no way I'm carrying vinyl. I've got a ridiculous amount of stuff with me, but bringing vinyl is just too much. So, but I found in Sofia, I've got a recommendation to who gave me this the original record store that opened after Sofia became the capital of Bulgaria, and I'm going to go and hunt down some music there. So I'd like to sort of use you to put out a call to the Hoxton FM community, really, as well, when every time I'm going through somewhere, to find out where I need to be going, really. I'm new here, and I don't know. I need to know. It's always finding the right people, right? You could end up at the HMV equivalent if you ask the wrong person. So,
well, funnily enough, when I went to Tokyo, I was asking for tips on record shops, and people kept saying to me, "Yeah, HMV," and I thought, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to HMV." And actually, when I went to New York, it was the same thing with I think it was Rough Trade, and I just thought, "Oh yeah." And in New York, I thought, I'm not going there, and then afterwards, I realised actually it has a really good music selection, and HMV is the same. It's completely different to our kind of stereotypes of those shops and kind of what they supply. So
that's true.
But people are very, very keen to tell you where to check out. So, and it'd be great to get even like a short video or your pick, or you're saying you're doing a chart. Is that online, or you're putting something up online somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to try and do what in terms of music that I find.
Yeah, just a taster. I think it's really great to kind of open people's ears a bit.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to basically. I've got some playlists that I put together as I go along. It's been quite hard in Europe because there's so many countries. I struggle with languages for that reason as well. It's like I learned how to say hello, how to say bulk in Croatia, and then like the next day I'd be in Serbia. So, but now I'm more. But now I'm coming out of Europe, and the countries are much bigger. It's an entire month. My entire cycle so far is basically what it'll take. I've got more time to sort of build some sounds in a particular place, and I'm keen to do it. I'm not quite sure what I'll do yet. I'd quite like to do a mix or a playlist or something from each city or each country as I go, but we'll figure it out. Got the old mbowler.com on there, so I'm going to put my cheesy pop playlist that I listen to when I need to get up a hill, and then I'm going to put my unique sort of underground, or not necessarily underground, but local picks from wherever I stop as well on there. So we'll figure out the format.
That's great. That's really great. So yeah, benbowler.com. And just quickly going back, because no one likes a vegan. But you're still vegetarian, but you're kind of you're getting dairy into your diet because it's just too difficult to.
Yeah, I think I've been vegan for about 9 months while I was in London before I left the trip, and I never really became vegan for a big ideological uh, statement. It kind of became I became a vegetarian about, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, but not never said I was. I just gradually stopped eating meat and became less and less interested in meat. And then in London, it's actually just so incredible to be vegan right now. It's the most unbelievable place. Like there's probably a new restaurant opening every week there to try out. So it actually was easier, and if I find it easier at home to cook vegan anyway. Once you're over that sort of month or two of getting used to the products that you look for in the supermarket and things, it's actually I think it's easy. People say, "Oh my god, it must be so hard," but it's so easy. Anyway, yeah. But in terms of cycling, I could probably be vegan and cycle around the world. I'm sure it would be doable. But for me, it's more about, that's not why I'm doing it. You know what I mean? And also, one of my main reasons for being interested in veganism is that, apart from the health side, is the sort of environmental impact and the food supply chain and things like that. And in different countries, it's an entirely different process. So um, it's the kind of fully mechanized dairy system is probably not the same as it is in compared to like wherever the random cheese comes from that I get buy over the counter in a like a Serbian supermarket. So yeah, I've been having a lot of cheese. That's the short answer to that. It's weird though, because kind of like you were saying before while we were setting up, I did find that dairy is sort of is pretty can be quite make me quite sluggish in a way. I haven't really noticed that because I've been tired out by cycling so much. Rather than, I'm not sure what's the effect of the dairy, what's the effect of the 100-mile bike ride that I did the day before. Um,
I've unwittingly copied you almost exactly, but been about 9 to 12 months behind you. Maybe.
So you're going to cycle around the world next year,
yeah? Yeah, maybe I'll just run.
Yeah.
But no, the whole for health thing, but I think also because you're not preaching about it, you're not telling anyone about it. It's your choice, and I think also you give yourself all these amazing opportunities to meet new people, to try new delicacies of all sorts. I mean, you're going to do it. I mean, I ate fish. I ate fish when I was in Japan. I've got to be honest. And it was great.
Yeah.
But the thing is, yeah, as I say, no one likes a vegan, so neither of us are going to go on about our diets. But it's just very interesting to kind of see that you had to kind of slightly adjust. And I'm sure in different parts of the world it's easier and harder. Like,
yeah, it's true. I'm interested, as I go into the Middle East, what it'll be like, food wise, and yeah, I may be able to get away with a lot more beans. I mean, one of the things that kind of agrees with me to the fact that I think it would be hard is that the only beans I've been able to find in the supermarket are kidney beans, which I just find after a while are incredibly tasteless, basically.
Yeah.
So if I basically have to eat kidney beans for a few meals a day, but I mean, I'm sure there's different ways to do it. But yeah, I was interested in Belgrade by the fact that there was loads of graffiti that was like, turn vegan, and this vegan restaurant that I came across was unbelievable. And even someone here, when I said I was vegetarian here in Sofia, they asked me if I was vegetarian or vegan. So it's spreading. The trend is spreading. I'm all for it, really. But then you go to the small town, and there's like people buying and selling live pigs in the street. So it's interesting to see how it will spread and grow. I think it will become a real zeitgeist at some point, even if it's not from the welfare angle, from the environmental angle. I think it will become, if it's not already become, a major trend. I just want it to become a sort of a serious embedded thing. Do you know what I mean? I feel like a lot of the vegan content that I see and blogs that I see are really targeted at this with the hemp baggy bell bottoms or whatever, and the vegan Doc Martens or whatever. But really, I think when the sign will be when a Canary Wharf chain, like when a Temple of Satan opens in Canary Wharf, that'll be at the time when veganism has actually kind of grown into into the sort of the mainstream in a way. And you see someone in a suit, in a Oxford shirt, eating at eating at a vegan restaurant, then I think it's started to spread, and that would be a good sign for me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So you've kind of started, you've kind of left with this huge 50 kilo, well, it's the bike and the baggage is 50 kilos,
Bike and the
right?
bags, yeah. Yeah.
I'm just wondering if there's, now you're 3 weeks in, if there's anything that you'd have done slightly differently, or the next time you decide to ride around the world, what are you going to pack less, or have you kind of dumped anything, or?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I've been dropping so much a lot along the way.
You mean gifts to people, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Basically, I mean, the one of the biggest things is that I learned that I should always do what Dan suggests, because one of the things that we chatted about before I left was we were talking about how to document this thing, and I'm really keen to build. Obviously, we've got on Hoxton FM, but I'm hoping also to put it on my YouTube channel as well, and build out a channel there, a little bit of what I'm doing. So I'm keen to sort of film what I'm doing as I go. So obviously I went out and bought a Sony A5000 camera with a big lens, and I've still got the Gorilla Pod. I haven't thrown that away quite yet. And I filmed my sort of departing thing with it, my farewell, and I filmed some bits of me in the Airbnb, because when I cycled out of London, I cycled with a big entourage. And then when I got to the Airbnb the next day, suddenly everyone left and I was on my own. So I filmed all of my sort of little bits of the camera there. What I found with taking a camera like that was not actually the size and the weight of it, but it was actually the media management, which to me is exciting. It might not be exciting to many people, but what you don't realize with an iPhone is that when you take a video or a photo, that's automatically geo-tagged with where you took it, so that it appears on your nice little photos map. But also you can then edit it on the same device. You can share it on the same device. You can cut everything together using iMovie, like a full-on video editing app on the phone. I've got the Insta360 camera as well, and you can bring in videos from that, edit it all on the phone, and then you can share it out as well. You can publish it. So I found a camera is actually feels like a really dated device, because you take a photo or record a video and then it doesn't have a GPS tag. It's on this SD card, which you then have to try and import into somewhere at some point. You have to manage all these different SD cards. You have to have an adapter to sync with my phone, my laptop. And actually, I was like, for the quality difference, it did look a bit better with a nice little blurred background. But I'm just going to record it on my phone. Do you know what? I can do so much on there versus that camera. So that's the biggest thing I learned. Trust what Dan says.
I was imploring you. I was imploring you. But I'm very envious that you again, shout out to Petter for suggesting he had the Insta360 Nano, which I borrowed when I went to New York, and everyone was like blown away by it. And then he said to me, you need to get the Insta360 One. It attaches to your iPhone. It can work independently. You can stick it on a piece of string and swing it around your head.
Oh, yeah.
You can get amazing shots. You can use the Tiny Planet function for photos and videos. As you said, you can kind of edit everything on the phone. We're kind of getting into the geeky section of this chat, but
in terms of the more like the kit side of things, I think I've generally been okay. The one thing that I've sort of found less is that I sort of had a bit too many clothes. I tend to just now stick to these sort of my little Red Bend Round the World tops. So I'm sending back to my sister, who's my HQ in Oxford, a few extra clothes, things like that. I'm trying to think what else. Other than that, lots of GoPro adapters. A lot of camera stuff really is what I kind of took too much of.
But you know the anxiety for geeks like us is not having the right cable, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, a lot of extra cables. I think I had maybe 8 USB micro cables when I set things up to Sophia. So I've literally just was like, okay, yeah, I'll have one backup one, and I'll have one in my primary thing.
It's possibly going to be the most readily available cable to you in the world, around the world, and you've got 8 of them.
Yeah, and then I suppose the other big thing, which a couple people have kind of taken the piss out of me for carrying, but I have my paraglider on the back as well.
So yeah, tell us a bit about paragliding, your background in it and everything, and
Yeah. So one of my other real dreams and passions as a kid is flying. So my when my parents split up, my dad started learning to fly so that he could fly over. It's a very dad thing to do, I have to say. So want to fly over the country to where my mum had moved to pick us up and fly back home. So we unfortunately we never actually did that. We got to fly together a little bit when I was younger, but not too much. But he got me a trial flying lesson when I was 13 in a glider. I've flown something like 70 or 80 flights, flown solo in fixed wing gliders, the big white long winged ones. I got 25 hours towards my private pilot's license, all while I was still living in Norwich. And then I made the mistake of moving to London, where the nearest airport is 2 hours away and costs extortionate amounts of money to learn to fly or to rent a plane there. So recently, I've been really interested in paragliding. It's an unbelievable thing, really. It's developed from free fall parachutists with the sort of the big chunky parachutes where you can steer them. Some crazy parachutists realized that if they ran off the side of a hill with these parachutes with enough wind, they could keep flying and thermal and like birds, soar like a bird, very much like a regular glider does. And there's been about 30 years now of development to make them a lot safer, luckily, and a lot smaller and lighter, to get to the point where now it's not tiny. It's maybe about a 30, 40 litre rucksack, and it weighs about 8 kilograms. But it is a full-on glider, which I can carry in that rucksack up to the hill. In fact, there's an amazing mountain here in Sofia, and I've reached out to the local paragliding group. I'm hopefully going to go in the next couple of weeks. You just walk up the hill with your rucksack, open up your parachute, fly it like a kite above your head. You take a step off the side, and it's the most unbelievable thing. My sister, while we were on holiday last year, I persuaded her to go tandem flying in Menorca, and she didn't stop smiling for 3 days afterwards, because it's the most like flying in a dream that you will ever experience, because it's absolutely silent. There's no engine or anything like that, and you're just suspended by a small little seat, basically a little cloth seat above nothing. You can go up to 3,000 feet in a nice little thermal and following the birds, and it's the most incredible thing. So my goal is to fly every time I stop. I'm not going to stop, bike up and then fly off, unfortunately. But I'm looking really forward to a lot of spots in the Himalaya in India. In Burr, you can camp on the top of the hill with your paraglider, launch off outside the campsite, fly up into the Himalayan mountains, sleep out in the mountains, glide back, land at the campsite for breakfast. Flying in Mexico, where they do a lot of the World Cup flying, in Colombia. There's some spots in Turkey as well. In the coming weeks, they'll be flying, and that's where the Insta360 camera comes into its own. I think I've got a little magnetic mount to connect it to the wing, so hopefully we should get some nice videos of me flying in various different amazing places as I go along.
Well, I've already seen GoPro videos of you flying. Where was it you did it before
in Bali.
In Bali, that's right.
You know that volcano that erupted recently?
You flew over it?
Yeah, not over it, but you basically launch off the side of a cliff down below. I have to say, I've flown in Spain a lot, and it's beautiful sights, but in Bali, it was just something else. Yeah, you sort of walk up to these old fields where they've old farmland, basically. You know, the stepped farmland, terraced farmland, and they've just cleared it. You pay 50,000 rupiah for the pleasure of being able to go on their land to fly, and then you pay another 50,000 to the small like 15-year-old girl to put your paraglider on her head and carry it up. That's compulsory. You wouldn't let me carry it myself. And then you launch off the side and you soar up. And as you come above, there's a temple on the top of the hill. You come above the temple, and there's the volcano is right there, a huge volcano in mist. If you went now, it would be streaming with ash. But yeah, it's one of the most amazing sights I've seen so far. Flying, I have to say.
So, and this is great that you're traveling around the world, and people can mock you all they want for carrying an extra 8 kilos, but it kind of drives you on to make sure you do some gliding and stuff. I think because you are carrying it, and yeah, I think it's so funny. I always have a go at my dad for carrying so much stuff in a big suitcase when he comes over from the Philippines, like multiple hard drives, external hard drives that he never uses, and it's just kind of looking at all the stuff you're carrying and saying, when did I last use that or that or that? Yeah. But I think with a parachute, I mean, you're going to get amazing footage. You know, I think definitely we should be telling Insta 360 about what you're doing. Maybe because they do run these kind of competitions and stuff. So
yeah, that's an interesting point. I'll have to check that out. Yeah, they've got some amazing like wingsuit flights and things on there, haven't they? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just like when I as I gradually came round to the idea that I was actually going to follow this dream, probably about 6 months before I left, I thought, you know, as I got more and more confident that I was actually going to do it, I thought, what the hell? While I'm in this I've got this mega selfish opportunity to do everything that I've always wanted to do. I'm going to make sure I've got my laptop and my USB key to get tunes and to be in the music culture. I've got the paraglider so that I can keep flying and doing all that. And it's just, yeah, while I'm in this mode of being able to do whatever I want to do, or go fulfill all my dreams, I might as well add on the flying element to it as well.
I don't think it's selfish at all. I think it's just, you know, you've done so much already. You're kind of pushing yourself to the next level, and yeah, I think it's really, really great. I just wanted to touch upon another thing that you've said to me. It's another geeky thing, but the way you're using a computer, you're downgrading as time goes on. So you had kind of a top of the range MacBook Pro 15-inch, which is what you need these days to live stream with. In the ways that we've done, and you've kind of scaled down. You're not quite on an iPad Pro yet, but you're using.
I did go there actually.
Right. So you went all the way down, and now you've kind of come back up one to the. It's called a MacBook, which is what size? 10-inch.
It must be 12-inch, I think.
12-inch.
12-inch, yeah. It's strange because I think it might reflect a little bit on what I'm doing. Although I don't know, I suppose I'm still doing video and still programming. I think it's just what I need, really. But yeah, it's the trade-off you make, I suppose, between size and performance. But yeah, when I was doing live streaming every day, you know, like you say, I had the 15-inch MacBook Pro with just maybe a quad core at the time, and just incredible beast of a machine with enough ports to hang all the cameras off that you need, and run a multi-track live stream with an audio desk and all that kind of stuff. And gradually, yeah, I've worked. My computers have got slower and slower, but they have got smaller and smaller, and as they go. And yeah, now I'm on what one of my favorite tech podcasters calls the MacBook Adorable, which I think is a great name for it, because it's not a MacBook Air, it is the new MacBook, but this processor is, I don't even know what it is, but the clock speed of it is probably the slowest computer I've had out the last 5 computers that I've owned. It's basically an iPad but with a keyboard, but it lets me do programming. I'm going to see this week how well it does with video and exporting and editing the stuff that I've been doing. But I can run Ableton Live on it reasonably well. I can run record box just about, although
Record box, even on a quad core MacBook Pro, it's just guys, record Pioneer, sort it out. Like, I don't care which celebrity DJ you get on your next promo video saying that it runs so much faster. No one believes you until you actually like prove it.
I'm not sure how they put that out, but
yeah. Have you? Just as another little aside, have you seen this guy? I think he's a Russian guy who's basically. He's modding the CDJ 1000, the old Mark III from like 12 years ago. He's modding it, and he's built a screen. So he's turned it into basically a CDJ 2000 screen.
No way.
It's got the waveform, the record box, everything. It uses SD cards right now, but he's just working on the and he says it's £100 with bits that you have to order. He's giving away all his instructions, his whole like way of doing it. I love this kind of this approach, seeing as they're charging £1,700 for the new Nexus 2 CDJ, and like you can pick up those 1000s in great condition for, I think, like I've seen pairs of them go for like £500-600.
Well, I was always amazed when I came to the Hoxton FM studio a while back, and you were repairing, I think maybe it was a 2000 Nexus, a CDJ 2000 Nexus, and they're obviously very big physical things, and that's kind of what you want. Well, that feels like that's what you want in a club, right? You need a solid thing that's going to be hard wearing and it's heavy, which is a sign that it's good equipment, right? In audio circles. But when you had it apart, I was absolutely shocked about the fact that it was basically, apart from the CD burner, which I suppose is or CD drive, which I suppose is quite a big component. Basically, it was a small board about that big. And then those giant buttons, which DJs you absolutely pound on. It had like levels and levels of plastic, and then a tiny little
micro switch.
Micro switch on the printed circuit board, which I can't believe lasts.
The
amount of use it gets.
I think I've replaced the Q button micro switches 3 times on each deck.
Nice.
I even uprated to a new circuit board that someone's made that is meant to dissipate the pressure a little bit better and stop it from breaking. And I've even replaced the 2 pitch sliders on them. Admittedly, that they are the industry standard. It's the feel of that platter wheel is really great. I know people still don't get along with them, and they love playing vinyl, and you do have the kind of emulators, the Serato and Traktor emulators, but they're overpriced. They're massively overpriced, and I think
that's what you get with market dominance.
I think these sort of hacker guys who are just modding older versions are really gonna. That's maybe the most competition that Pioneer is going to experience. I know Denon has brought out another one of their CDJs, and I had some of their early ones, and they are very good. But when you go into a club, you need to know, in the darkness of the DJ booth, you need to know how to use it, and that's why so many people have them, because they're in every club.
Well, it links back to the brand partnership stuff, because they are in 90% of clubs. They just don't need to give away any kit because that you'll buy it. There's not an alternative really, is there? It's true market dominance in a way. I know a pretty significant company that I've worked with who were given one CDJ loaner from Pioneer, which I think is quite impressive, because then you have to go and buy a mixer and another CDJ if you actually want to use it. Those sort of, I've seen more of the sort of RXs maybe being given out for sponsorship and things like that, which I think are quite cool little ones.
Boxes, aren't they?
Say that again?
Are they the effects boxes?
No, I mean the DDJ. No, not.
The all-in-one. The 2 CDJs and a mixer all in one.
Yeah, the all-in-one. Yeah.
Yeah. Funnily enough, when I went to see my dad in this tiny island in the Philippines for the first time, not this year, last year, I thought, I'll be able to completely decompress from music and DJing and everything.
Yeah.
And 3 doors down, there's a dive center with this amazing German guy, Stefan, and he's some successful like pop artist back in Germany, and he's brought like a little PA system. He's built a bar right on the beach, And he's like,
Oh,
"Oh,
man.
you're a DJ. Why don't you come and play?" And like, lo and behold,
That's
he
classic.
had that bit of kit brand new, and so
Yeah.
I was like playing there every night. Just
Oh, man.
it's great fun. Like they're really good bits of kit.
Yeah, it's nice to have it all in there. I think, like I said, that was actually what I get. There's definitely that link, I think, between the sort of the extreme sports and or yeah, like adventure sports and DJing though, because I had the exact same experience in Spain when I went to fly out there. I rocked up. Actually, I rocked up on my bike for my training course. I cycled there as part of that trip I mentioned earlier, and I got there and I was chatting to my instructor, and he was like, I remember how we got into the conversation, but he was just like, "Oh yeah, I've just got to go to Seville to pick up my my new mixer," and he go to his tiny little remote village, which all it's got is um, olive trees, farming, and paragliding. That's like the only two things that go on there. And in his apartment, he's got the most unbelievable, like it's like a spaceship in terms of lights. He's got all the effects boxes and everything set up with his DJ kit. There's definitely a crossover between DJing and diving and paragliding and everything like that. It's a different lifestyle, isn't it, I suppose?
I think there are things that you can get really geeky about as well. You can get
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
you know
A
you
lot
can
of
get.
kit to geek about.
And I think what's interesting, you were saying about your bike, which is another thing that you can get really obsessive about, and yet you're going around on this kind of, it's a classic frame, isn't it?
Yeah, it's was made in 1996 by Doors, who are a British steel bike manufacturer. You'll probably, if now I've said it, you'll spot them around. There's a lot of them around, but
I had one when I was a kid.
oh really?
Yeah, with the gears on the frame. On the,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that is a classic. I mean, the thing that I really, yeah, like I think what we're saying is, for me, we could nerd about the kit, but I think a lot of it is about, and I've been reading a lot of other cycling blogs, and there's always a balance to be had between, you can geek out about the kit, but that can be a distraction from actually doing something. So I think with it, you actually get out and do it. I think this bike is pretty much like, it is designed for what it's doing, but I think the reason I love it the most is that I know for a fact that it will outlive me. It's like it's just made. It's just however many 5, 10 tubes of regular steel soldered together. Take standard components. I've got a video that I'm going to put up. A little time lapse of me building it over took about 6 hours. It was set up as a road bike before. I'd be powering around London, doing big loops outside London, going up Box Hill, overtaking people on £6,000 carbon road bikes with my steel frame, because it's more about actually cycling than the kit in a way. But now it's completely changed. It can carry all my racks and all my kind of kit, and I think when I get back, I'll stick a baby seat on the back when I've got kids, and well, to ride it, it'll be my grandsons or something. But it's an amazing piece of kit. It's really very physical. Do you know what I mean? It's very different to all the tech world that we're in. It's all standard, basic mechanics really, which is just infinitely repairable.
I mean, I think that's a really beautiful thing, and it makes me think about I don't know if this is kind of a bit of an urban myth, but there was a spate of English kind of cars, like sports cars, being bought, the old Triumphs and stuff. In Japan, there were a lot of people buying them because basically Japanese cars were so reliable, they never broke down. And there was this thing about, I'm going to have this car, and when it breaks down, I'm going to roll my sleeves up, get out of the car, get my toolkit out of the back, and I'm going to fix it. Because, there's only so much that goes wrong with them, carburetors, things like that. But
that's true.
there's that kind of thing about being able to maintain something and keep it. I mean, we're in this disposable generation where, like, for instance, my last laptop died. I tried to get it fixed. The guy couldn't fix it. I took it somewhere else. He couldn't fix it, and they just said, "Look, it's dead. Give it up." And yeah, I don't think. I mean, with my kind of setup now, I've moved the Hoxton FM studio back to Formless Studios. I'm kind of, I love fixing things and maintaining stuff, and nothing really breaks for me because I kind of have an understanding of what goes into it. But I've got like a lot of English built stuff from the hi-fi era, So we've got the floor standing speakers. Actually, those are American, but the amps are Meridian. And there's only so much that goes wrong with those. They were built the same year I was born. And
Nice.
They could definitely outlast me.
Outlive you. Yeah.
And
it's amazing, that kind of thing. It is a great feeling to be able to just know that you can pretty much fix everything that could go wrong with it. Obviously, there's we're just moving away from that world, I think. I met there's an interesting link, I suppose, with a trip in that I mentioned that I had a host in warm showers host earlier, and it was in Stuttgart in Germany, and I stayed with this amazing guy called Andy. He's an engineer for a car manufacturer. Basically, he basically does the testing for new cars. And I asked him, I can't remember why I thought of this, but I think he was telling me a bit about the diagnostics. And when you repair a car now, you basically
plug it
into the garage and they plug it in, right, and it tells them what's wrong. And I said, are the pedals and the steering wheel actually connected to anything now? And he said, no, they're not connected, which has shocked me so much. But I don't know why it shocked me, because I should have known it. But it's all code that manages whether when you turn the steering wheel, the car actually turns. But the contrast to that is so funny, because when I crossed the border into Serbia, the most common car that I could see, that was apart from the sort of Soviet, like Ladas and Yugos and things like that, were the original Golf. The sort of, is it 80s era Golf?
With the big back window. It's quite.
Yeah, and they're so small, which is something you don't realize now. But like, cars are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, aren't they? As they sort of become more padded, I suppose, and more standard parts. But yeah, like these cars have been going since they were built in the 80s. They're probably 50 years old, most of these cars. But they're, like you say, they're still going. And I'd go around the corner and there'd be the VW garage dealer and mechanic. And behind the mechanic, there would just be a boneyard of every type of that type of car. So there was a Renault garage, and then there'd be hundreds of, well, not hundreds, but tens of old Renaults in the background. You go to the VW garage, because what they're doing, obviously, is just, car breaks down, go and find the carburetor or whatever from the one that had a crash into a tree or something and had something other wrong with it, and filled it in and get it working. But it's a very different mindset to the sort of disposable era of things. But it gives us, I suppose, the flip to that is that it gives us sort of more reliability in a certain context, but only within a certain window, maybe. Because cars have become incredibly safe, incredibly sophisticated as well. And that's the same with electronics. My phone is now just unbelievably sophisticated piece of kit. It's much more powerful than the first book I had or the iMac that I had. And that's kind of why, in a way, it has to be a little bit more disposable, because it's just, to make something this sophisticated, you give up the repairability of it in a way.
Well, I think you can change you can change parts in and out, and now the manufacturers are trying to stop us from doing that.
Yeah, that's true.
There's a really interesting video up on, I think a guy put it up on YouTube, and he's in some province in China where they can upgrade your iPhone. They can kind of put bigger memory in it and like do all these things. And they even sell the bit of kit that you can kind of hack the software and everything.
But I mean, the argument from someone like Apple though would be like in that iMac I had, or the Power Mac, the old Power Macs, you'd pop there's literally a handle to open it up, and you could look inside, because every component is separate. But now I've done it, as I'm sure you have, like when I've tried to fix my own screen myself and taken the screen off and taken everything down, all of everything that would have made that Power Mac, that massive, or that iMac, is now just one
board,
piece of plastic and silicon. Everything is soldered onto that one bit, right? So that is the irreparability of it in a way. I think the thing that I get wound up about is the software planned obsolescence part of it. So because I'm sticking to this phone, hopefully for the entire trip, it's really my main thing, my navigation, my communication, my where I do a daily diary and things like that, and camera obviously and everything like that. But I've had phones before where I updated the latest software and it just bricks it. So I'm not updating this for the next 2 years. That's my plan. Because
that's great. Yeah, I mean,
this does everything I need to do. You know what I mean? It's just, yeah, it's a strange process, that planned obsolescence element in tech. It's a bit of a bad look, I think.
I mean, you know more than I had assumed that it was the kind of geeky developers just fixating upon making things better for the newest phones with a complete disregard for the owners of the older phones. And as someone who's still rocking an iPhone 6 myself and stubbornly kind of sticking with it, and stupidly I did update. But there was that whole furore that came out, and so Apple had to kind of backtrack. I think some of their more recent software updates are actually making it more usable for the older phone users. And they've also, I've just upgraded my battery for 25 quid. So I've got a brand new battery in it,
Nice.
done by Apple, in a matter of hours. And
Solid.
yeah, it's a funny one. I know everyone wants to slag Apple off, but the fact that you can integrate everything, that everything kind of still works the way you want it, and you kind of get used to that, does hook you in for maybe not life, but for once you got one item, you kind of add another one. And would you ever move to Android if your iPhone fails you whilst you're out there?
I don't think so. Mainly just because I'm full on, admittedly, just embedded in this phone. Like it's probably why it might go slow, but this one has been this phone's been restored from successive backups since probably since I was in sixth form. Since I got the original iPhone, the second hand off eBay somewhere, the old aluminium one. So it's got my text history, even though I'd never look back at a text ever, even from like last week. For some reason, I just don't like the idea of losing that thread of life.
Well, maybe this is a nice link. I'm quite proud of this. Just as your dad had bought you that bike, and you could very well ride with your children on the bike, you could end up giving that bike to your children. Would you give your backup of your phone as an heirloom? With that, you're writing a diary every day, but it might be that that there's this whole multi-layered entry about you. I wonder whether historians will be going through Donald Trump's private messages in generations.
Leafing through the data element of it, yeah. I mean,
they probably already are, to be honest. But
yeah. It's an interesting one. That comes into a sort of data conversation, really, about like how I think finally we're with GDPR and everything, we're living in an era where data is not like people are thinking about how to get rid of it, whereas in the beginning of the internet, or the sort of consumer internet, I suppose, and everything is about, for me anyway, was about like logging it. Like I when Facebook launched that timeline that had you could go back and put stuff in. I was going in and putting in key events in my life because I really like that idea of having that big arc of my life recorded somewhere digitally, and that's what Facebook was for me for a while, until it became kind of clear that it was not emotionally very good for most people, and for me particularly, and I kind of came off that. But I'd be intrigued about the idea of having some digital.
So you're not worried about.
I think it would be the blog rather than, it would be like some digital artifact like the website or YouTube or something like that, some kind of owned video content rather than a physical item now.
Will historians be kind of creating the highlight reels from these things? And I just wonder whether do you back up onto the cloud? Are you worried about your data?
Yeah, that's the only thing. I got the warning when I don't know, when I was in Germany, I suppose, from the phone, the pop-up that says your photos and your phone haven't been backed up in 7 days because you need to be on Wi-Fi and have it turned off and that kind of thing. I've had a lot of bad things to say for Apple Photos, but it kind of just about does the job. I think because it's an Apple product, it sits in the background of a phone and just sucks bandwidth and it does actually upload everything if you just leave it overnight somewhere. So I would be really upset if I lost like a month's worth of photos or something. If my phone was stolen, for example, but that's why I'm uploading to cloud. But then saying that, I deleted my leaving video from the Insta360 this morning, which was absolutely killer because I filmed for my helmet or us riding out, or with me and all my friends. We rode out from Buckingham Palace to Tower Bridge, Big Ben, all the way out to Canterbury, and I filmed the first hour. And then I thought I'd pressed the export to phone button in the Insta360 app. And so I wiped all the SD cards, and then I came back to the app and it wasn't in there. So I've lost that, which is a shame.
I'm big on the just. Oh wait a minute. So did you had it saved on an SD card in the Insta360?
Yeah.
So I manually take that little card, that little micro SD out. I put it in the caddy. I put it into an SD slot, and I just drag and drop. And my backups. How do you back up? Have you done a massive backup and like left it at your sister's? Have you got like physical backups?
Actually, yeah, I did that. I did a backup of my laptop before I left, and then left it there. And then I've got a hard drive with me because of the video content. So I've got a couple of 2 terabyte drive that I installed iMovie on, but obviously if that went, everything would go. So I'm planning to just, I don't know, I want, kind of like you said about your Japan trip, I want to make sure I edit and put everything up as I go along at each stop, otherwise it just won't happen, do you know what I mean? So I will have an archive of each, even if I don't have every moment of every trip, I'll have all of the clips that I recorded on my phone in photos, and I'll have the edited artifacts after the fact, which will probably be the good stuff anyway, do you know what I mean? Probably leave all the random shots of motorway service stations or whatever that out of it anyway. But
you could have a great montage of just motorway service stations all cut together.
Yeah.
The pain is real. Like I think the way I back up now, I've got one of those. What do they call them? NOS. So it's like a wireless drive connected to
NAS,
NOS. So it's time machine backupping from my computer and the external drive I store stuff onto that drive. And if I'm ever away and I lose everything, I can access from anywhere in the world by just putting in this URL and putting in my password, so I can access my data. But and like all the video stuff, I've got an extra backup of it. But you always kind of it's like there's always this anxiety that comes in with all this stuff. Whether it's like I knew I'd get an opportunity to say this when I hired a Tesla last year. And you're like charging it. And I was pushing it to, I was really pushing it to the limit. So what it was telling me that the range ended up dropping massively. And then if you miss your charging point in a service station, you end up finding that you're on, basically I was getting massive range anxiety.
Oh no.
And there's this same thing with like, you're getting data anxiety.
Data anxiety, yeah. I mean, it's true, but I've done it before. I've lost hard drives or wiped hard drives by accident. And I always get that sinking feeling of like, oh no, but actually, you know what? I still did it. I still have the experience. I'm a bit disappointed about the ride out one because I wanted to get a nice little montage of me going across Tower Bridge with all the friends around me and everything. But you know what? I still did it, and everyone was still there. It's just I won't be able to look back at that. Apart from in the photos that did survive my SD card wiping. But I think you do put a big emotional value on data, and it's right. Those are your memories, and it's the equivalent of like if your house got robbed or there was a fire, God forbid, and you lost your wedding album or something. There's a real emotional value to the memories there, and that's true whether it's a paper album versus a digital copy on a hard drive somewhere.
But it's this hoarding mentality that we've all developed from whether you've got a house full of clutter and you don't want to throw anything away because you might need it. I certainly have that with cables now here. But also there's the whole kind of side of things where you're building up all this data, and if you have too much data, you can't find anything because there's so much. And the unedited footage is a
Oh,
thing,
yeah.
and just touching back on like one nice thing that Apple phones do is when you delete photos or videos, it puts it in a recently deleted folder and won't actually let
Yeah.
you delete it until you go into it and
Yeah,
delete
yeah.
it. So
Yeah, delete it again. Yeah.
there's an interesting kind of thing there. But and also I realised when I was out in the Philippines this year, and it's just incredible sunsets and sunrises. And the first thing I realised is to capture a sunrise, you don't get up near sunrise. You get up an hour and a half before sunrise and go to the place and set your cameras up and then try and capture it. And if you're really unlucky and you've ridden your moped up this, what they call the mountain, which is just a massive hill, you've got onto the vantage point, and then this mist just descends in, and you're, you know, waking up at 4 a.m. has achieved nothing. And the sunsets were much easier to catch, and you're interested in dusk after the sun has gone down, and you have these beautiful colours. But I suddenly realised I'd kind of fallen into this trap of fixating upon capturing the moment rather than living the moment and enjoying the moment and really, you know, getting the most out of it. And so you end up being this not human person, or you're not living in the moment, basically.
Living the life through the lens. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you might not capture it the right way, or you're then... You know, we see everyone on their phones, fixated on their phones and not engaging with each other. You always observe this now. It's just quite funny to see it, and I wonder whether that's a reaction, that whether there'll be people reacting. And you know, you were never like on social media, like you were never on Facebook. If I tagged you in a funny video from Boomtown where all those girls were prancing around in front of you, and you're in front of the broadcast computer, like.
It's a real true moment of my life there, yeah.
Yeah, but you just got all these booties like going up and down, and then Ben looking at a computer like completely oblivious to them. But great Facebook moment.
Yeah.
But I mean,
well, I was on Facebook, like I said before, but before we met really, and I think the real turning point for me was when I was running Chew, and we got to an interesting point in the company where externally I was in the most successful point in my life, but internally things weren't going the way that I wanted them to go originally, for a lot of reasons and a lot of things that I've spent a lot of time thinking about since. But I was in this weird place where you have that projected outside of, you know, running a company and at a pretty young age, and it's in music as well, so getting to all these conferences, all this kind of stuff, and being the face of the company, and there was amazing parts to that too. But internally, just having there's all this stuff that isn't the way I want it to be, and really like affecting me mentally. And I think the most kind of depressed and sad I've been is during when I was the most successful. In a way, it's an interesting two-sided coin there. Like half the time you're in this amazing high, and then half the time you're really low. But at that point, Facebook just became this thing where I would go onto it, and before it was all about friends, and I would share links, and it would be places where I'd learn things, and Twitter as well. You know, I'd had some really interesting people that I'd follow, and I just really learned something new every time I went there. Back in the day when you could still do it, I used to actually catch up with the feed chronologically and tweet what I'd go back to, it would stay where I started and I'd catch up. But then it switched this moment where, I'm not sure whether it was an algorithmic thing or just a personal emotional thing, but it got to the point where it was just really upsetting to look at Facebook, really. Like, because it's a lot of people projecting that positive element, but not anything real. So I just see people having amazing
posturing
lives, and I'd be like, I'm not feeling like that right now, so it would make me feel really bad. And so at that point, I switched to using it as just self-promotion, which is actually probably making the whole system worse, because I'm sure there's other people that have looked at things that I've posted and been like, oh God, my life sucks compared to like this guy. But
no, I think I think people see stuff you're doing, and I think it's making them think, well, why don't I do that? And if they're making excuses for why they don't do that, then they haven't maybe gone through enough. And I think that what's interesting about you saying about your success point and everything, I wonder if that's to do with how fixed your expectations were, how much you'd sacrificed in order to get to that point. It's that thing, isn't it, where you can do something and be completely independent but not really have any budget to do it, or you can get external people in and to get budget you need to make compromises, really, most of the time.
It. I mean, you can. I always say that. It's that working with other people is the best and the worst thing that you could have done with Chew, because like if it had just been me the entire time, then it would just never what it is. But equally, that led to negative sides of it as well. I mean, back to sort of how other people perceive trip and things like that. I think what I want to do a little bit more, where as I go along, which I haven't done, which I've filmed but I haven't worked out how I'm going to put out yet, is actually filming when I am feeling really shit. Because a lot of to be fair, I thought that I would have had more down points during this first leg, and maybe it's because I'm still close to home and I'm still in contact that and maybe there's more downsides to come, hopefully not. But I mean, I had a couple of situations, over this trip where, breaking up with a girlfriend, actually being alone for the first time after just the crazy weeks and weeks before I left. 3 different projects and doing exams for my degree all in the week before I left, and building the bike and paying the route, all this kind of stuff. And then I got a massive cold and food poisoning and all this kind of stuff before I went. So that moment when my sister left me at the Airbnb and I was alone for the first time after months of just intense activity, did feel really shit. I just literally sat on the sofa at the Airbnb for 2 hours, just clinging on to that feeling of being with those people that I loved before I left. And I want to make sure that I share that as well as I go along, because I think it is, there is a negative aspect to social media about just feeling sad that other people are having great lives, that you are, and feeling sad that you don't get enough likes as everyone else. And I just want to minimize that while maximizing any kind of inspirational value or really just egging on people to do what they want to do at the same time.
So you went cold turkey in a way. You had this kind of, or you had this extreme kind of point you got to, and then it's all gone. Which is going to be the most kind of, it literally knocks the wind out of your sails, I'm sure.
It's probably the most it's the most social, because I had this deadline. I just said no. I said yes to everything, basically, work-wise, life-wise, love-wise, and just put for probably at least the 2 months, if not more, before I was just all out, and it was probably most social time I've had in the last few years, really, just with working with new people every day and everything. So then just to go to that, to be on your own, and then just to know that you're going to be on your own for the next however many years or months is really, it's not an amazing feeling, actually. It's pretty upsetting.
I think it takes a lot of humility to kind of share that with people, and I think it's really healthy, because I think a lot of people feel this social pressure to appear happy all the time and to kind of fall into line with the posturing and check out this, or I've done this, and it always makes me think of the what is it, the boyfriends of the girls of Instagram, who have to take the photos of and their posture, and it's like you take loads and loads of photos of them in the sandy beach looking amazing, and it's just it's I mean, I guess in history you'd get a portrait painted, wouldn't you? And it would be a really nice depiction of you, and you kind of sit there for hours having this portrait painted or whatever, and then it would be like that. So yeah, I just think everything's a lot more concentrated and extreme now that kind of people get like that. But I think it would be great for you to give people that insight, and yeah, not enough people are doing it, but I think when people do it, it's generally well received. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're ever worried about someone thinking that you're like that, you just have to be, more authentic, more show your vulnerable side a bit, and it is also amazing how many people then open up themselves. They're like, oh yeah, well, I didn't feel so great when I got my dream job because
Yeah.
it wasn't the way I expected.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to be in a place where you can do that really now. So we'll see. It can go too far the other way as well, into then you're working the emotional angle for another, for more likes and that kind of thing. So it's always a fine line to tread. But I think as long as I'm doing it honestly, really, I think that's the key. And just sharing how I'm feeling is going to be the key. I've written a daily diary which I'm going to be publishing the back blogs for in the next few days. And one of my things that I note each day, the distance I've traveled so far, where I am, the weather, and then just how I'm feeling as well. I had to cross out tired in everyone because I put tired. But it's a given that I'm a little bit tired every day. But on top of that, I'm tracking how I'm feeling. I think is a key part of what I want to log.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's really great. So you're in Sofia for how long now? You're taking
Yeah, I'm in for about a month because I'm working along the way. I'm working out of here, out of my friend Neil from Ramp, out of the Ramp office in Sofia. So I'll be here for a month, and then I'm going to head off into Turkey and, well, depending on what visas I get, into Iran, Pakistan, India over the next few months. I'll have my stops decided. I want to, because what I found really quite nice about this trip is that I had Sofia as a goal. That really helped me through because I could sort of really see where I was going, basically, and there's nice progress there. And I knew that when I got here, I had the Wi-Fi that I could get addicted back to, and I had somewhere to stay and that kind of thing. So my goal is my aim planned out, either in Iran or in Eastern Turkey, and I'll know that, and then we can book another date, have another chat, another podcast, another video catch up each month or every 2 months, I suppose, and then I'll be working out there for another month, carrying on cycling for another month, and then just repeating that until I get back to London, however long it takes.
So there's no fixed time limit on finishing, but there are steps along the way that you've got kind of planned out, and we're hoping we might have an Iran contact for you in Tehran. I've got to follow that up.
Awesome.
But I really like the fact that, because I think if I was even attempting to do what you're doing, I would probably still be in Belgium. I would have got sidetracked, and I'd be like, oh, there's a really great stuff going on here, and but you're kind of sticking to the littlest hobo kind of mentality of like you just keep moving on. You're not gonna. But I mean, and you have these planned stops.
A lot of it is just you get the itch, really. Because I like that. I really like that sort of existence of eat. Find food, find shelter, communicate with new people. There's novelty of new scenery, continuous new scenery. Like I get the pleasure of waking up to a new sunrise and going to bed to a new sunset every single day. So it's actually I really love that. And I think it would be hard if I didn't, obviously, because I'm going to do a lot of it. So even here, before I arrived, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get on that laptop and get coding, and got a few interesting projects coming up. And then as soon as I got here, I was like, oh man, I'm missing being on that bike. I just want that simplicity of life again. So I want that. I need the balance as well. I think I like having the consistency of relationships for a while as well. That's the only downside. I think I've cycled, like I said before, I've been on a few trips, and the longest I've cycled for is about 2 months, and solidly. And after that 2 months, I was really quite desperate to not be cycling. So I think I found a good balance in that I can cycle for about a month or so, have that amazing rolling circular experience of just fulfilling those basic human needs really, and exploring new places, and then have a base, have an Airbnb or a hostel or a hotel or whatever in a bigger city, explore the music, explore the culture, make longer, deeper connections, and then and connect back to home and things like that for a month, and not have to worry about moving on, and then get back into that cycle. So it's a plan. So yeah, I'll update you with my departure plans when I'm going. We can find a time to record another episode.
That'd be really great, and I hope okay. You say always do what Dan says, and I'm saying do as I say, not as I do, because I have a massive backlog myself. But get all that editing done. Just get through all that editing up to this point, so that when you leave Sofia, you're like, you've got it all logged or whatever. And certainly with the Insta360, if you want to send me the raw files or anything, I'm happy to kind of have a crack at some of those for you.
Nice.
I recommend the desk. Have you got the desktop suite, the actual software for the computer?
Yeah, I've downloaded it.
Yeah, they just did a new update. I think one other geeky question I've got is, I've heard that Bulgaria has one of the fastest internet connections in the whole of Western Europe. Have you found that?
Well, it's been good. We had a few glitches before this while we were testing things out, but actually this seems to be okay. I haven't actually run a speed test, but I've been very happy, I have to say. I think that's why I want to get a good chunk of work and video editing and stuff done here, because I know I won't necessarily be able to rely on getting a solid connection for a little while after this. But yeah, I have no complaints. I would definitely say it's a good spot to come out and work and live. And that's what my friend Neil's done, really. He moved his company over here a while back, and it sounds amazing to do. You can get the Ryanair flight that you heard earlier for 20 quid to the UK, to London or Manchester or whatever for in a couple of hours. And yeah, it's actually a solid place, I think, to live and work. The same for Belgrade, I'd say.
So that's definitely test it out at his office. I'd be really interested. I'm sure he has the fastest you can get over there. And obviously you're used to Google Campus, and I'm sure Universal had an amazing connection as well. And I'm just talking domestic standards really myself. I'll send
you the screenshot.
No, but it's been really, really great chatting with you. I can't believe we've done an hour and 40 minutes. I'm definitely not going to do any editing myself on this.
No. Well, if you put it, are you going to put it on Hoxton somewhere?
I might put it on our YouTube. I've been geeking out on YouTube because we really are. When you stream live music and DJs playing music, if it's been released, you're going to get a copyright infringement. I think it's great. I think it's great the way they're going, where certain more progressive, smaller labels will allow, if there's an infringement and you get flagged, they'll allow that to stay up, and they will derive revenue.
Take the monetization, basically.
They will take the monetization. But I've been watching PewDiePie. This guy's got the most YouTube followers.
Yeah, I know.
I'm really taken by him. Really interesting guy, and I realised that each time that my DSLR camera has gone into its sleep mode and the screen's gone, is the perfect time to put in an advert or something. So don't blame us for advertising. Blame the camera. But I think I'd like to put it on the Hoxton FM YouTube. I'll happily give you it as well.
That'd be good. I'm gonna put. It depends on how up I get with my editing, but I'm going to edit it a little bit. I'm also going to make a audio podcast with the chat and put that up as well, and then just see who is interested in listening or watching, and then we'll work on it from there. But it's always good to chat. I know we get into interesting sidetracks, and that's why I thought Dan is the person that I want to chat to about my crazy experiences, because there's always a story from Dan to match.
Well, I'm old. You're young. I'm old. But it's really inspiring that you're doing it. It's a real pleasure and really an honor to be able to talk to you about it. I hope we can keep doing these installments. Once I've done the tiny little cuts where the cameras come off and I've put that up. I'll send you the video. I'll send you. You can extract the audio, or do you want me to do it?
Yeah, well, I'll sort it out.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
I love it.
Nice one.
Yeah,
Well,
really, really cool. And we've got projects coming up together anyway. Even though you're, all over the world, we've got other stuff going on. So yeah, good luck. Stay safe.
Yeah.
Final question: any physical ailments, saddle sores, anything like that?
Yeah. Well, everyone seems fixated about my saddle. All of a sudden, I get a lot of questions about how saddle sore I am, but actually that's not the problem. The main problem I've had is my wrists, which I didn't even notice because I've got quite an aggressive position on the bike, just because that's the stem I had and I ran out of time to buy a new one. So my wrists, when I stopped, and I kind of started noticing, my hands have actually swollen up, and the palm is calloused and swollen. So yeah, a nice high stem and big padded handlebar tape and big gloves for the next step. But other than that, no ailments. Oh, and the only other ailment is that I had a fight with a pavement in Austria and ended up in a bush, and my knee hit the pavement. So I have a bit of a scab on my left knee. But that could have gone much worse. It was more just me being tired from a long day, and the weight's quite high compared to what I've ridden before with the paraglider on top. So I misjudged the sort of really steep downhill turn, misjudged it, and just ended up in the bush. But I hope that hasn't happened again. I'm a bit more in control of it this time, so I will. Hopefully, I won't have to buy any more ibuprofen for the next few legs.
Well, a good wake up call maybe, and I want to know how much lighter your bike with luggage, with everything, gets as you progress. I wonder whether you start decluttering
decluttering the bike life. Yeah, I mean the biggest thing that I'm really going to notice, I think, when I get into Iran and sort of desert parts of the world, is I've got a 6-liter dromedary water bag, and really I got in Europe and in everywhere I've been so far, every 5-10K you stop somewhere where you can go and ask for water, or you can buy water if there's a petrol station if you don't trust the tap, or you can just fill it up from the toilets or whatever. So I've really only used the bottles of my bike because I can just fill it up whenever I want. But when I get to somewhere where there's hundreds of kilometers between somewhere where I can really reliably ask for water, I'm going to literally have to take 6 to 8 liters of water on the bike, which is going to really, almost a paraglider's worth of water. The bike's going to get heavier as I get into warmer climes, I think. But I'm feeling good about it now. We'll see. The other thing is the road surface. If it gets more rocky and more mountain bikey, then I might struggle a little bit. But we'll see. I'll give you an update after Turkey next time.
Amazing. And I've just thought the final thing. How many punctures have you had so far?
Oh, well, I'm going to keep a tally. But the hilarious thing is, so I've got these amazing tyres which are really puncture resistant. I've only ever had one puncture on them before. And fingers crossed, so far I've had 0 punctures on the actual trip. But I had a leaving do at Look Mum No Hands, which is a brilliant little cafe bar cycle shop in
Old
Shoreditch.
Street, yeah.
In Old Street, yeah. And they displayed my bike, and I got the whole cafe for the Friday evening, which was amazing for them, really. Or the whole back of the cafe, and I first time I'd ridden with everything on, had my big leaving do, said goodbye to everyone, went to get back on the bike to cycle at home, and I had a puncture. I'd gone 7 kilometers and I had a puncture. So I was there by where the radar studios actually were, and I had all my panniers off. This is at like midnight in Old Street on a Friday night.
Oh God!
Drunk
Friday.
People stumbling around, and I'm changing my inner tube.
Half of Essex is there.
In Old Street. Oh my God, what an experience! But then since then, it's not. Touch wood, it has not happened. So
shout out the tyre manufacturer. Is that Gator Skin or?
No, I'm a Schwabler Marathon Pro.
Okay.
Plus man.
And that's why you ride out in the road, because as soon as you get to the gutter or the storm drain or anything like that, you've got all the washed up bits of glass and everything else. Old Street is terrible for it.
Is a bad idea.
Old Street is terrible for it. I'm sure it would have happened there, like right near there.
Yeah.
Which is why it's a good place to put a bike shop, or 15 of them.
Exactly. Yeah, maybe that's why they picked it.
Brilliant. Okay, Ben, thanks so much for your time. I'm really, really, really pleased with how that all came out. We didn't really plan it at all. I probably should have, but as you say, it's always nice to have a chat. And just for everyone who wants to follow everything about you, get all your installments, get all the edited video that you're going to upload. Can they just go to benbowler.com and just find the chosen platform?
Yeah, that's the central place. There's links out everywhere there. So there's what's going on there. I've got my daily diaries, like I mentioned before. I'm also doing more wrap-up style blog posts about the experience and about feelings, and maybe some techie stuff, bike techie stuff in there if people were interested. And then I've got the Instagram daily photo, assuming I have a connection. I've got YouTube, which I will be gradually publishing to over the coming weeks. I've got Strava. If you're also a fellow runner like you have become now, Dan, you can follow me on Strava and get really annoyed by the how far I've travelled in a day compared to your ride. And the final thing I've got on there is my satellite tracker, which is for my parents' sanity. So twice a day I update my map so you can see the last 7 days of where I've been travelling across the world, which is it's quite cool to see. It's quite funny to zoom in. You can sort of see where the random field that I'm camping in, if you're interested, on there. But yeah, lots of ways to track me down.
So that's benbowler.com.
That's it, yeah.
And this is a guy who's not really doing anything on social media ever, and now he's detaching himself, going around the world, exploring himself, and he's suddenly become this social media mogul almost.
Yeah, it's when there's something to publish, that's where I jump in and make everyone feel bad for not following their dream.
Not yet, but I'm sure many people will when they see how much fun and anguish you've been going through.
How hard work it is.
Right. Okay. So this has been Ben Bowler updating us on his Ben Around the World travels on Hoxton FM.
Awesome. See you next month.
Yeah, definitely. Where's my thumb on the picture? There we go.
Cheers, Dan.